now going to take a look at exercises 10-31 and 10-32. So kind of switching gears a little bit here, taking a look at material variances, then also taking a look at labor variances. You may have noticed there's quite a few equations in this particular chapter, so it's important when you start a problem to first identify what exactly is the problem asking for and what equation or set of equations might apply. So we can expand out the chapter here. First, take a look at the problem, see what it is that we're given and what it is that we're required to compute. So we're told that we produce apple juice sold in gallons. The company recently adopted the following material standard. So one piece of the puzzle we're always looking for in this chapter, what's the standard for 1 gallon of its apple juice? So we can see the direct material standard is 128 ounces at 5 cents. So that's $6.40. During the first week of operation, we also experienced the following results. So we produced 20,000 units. We've got 2.65 million ounces at 4.5 cents. And we're also told no beginning or ending inventories of raw material. So first, we're asked to compute the material price variance. And we can look back over to our solutions. We know that the equation for material price variance is the actual price minus the standard price times the actual quantity. So we can take a look back through the given information and we see that all three pieces of this equation are available to us. The actual price paid, we see here given in the results that the company actually experienced, 0.045. The standard price is towards the top there. We're talking about our standards. It's 0.05. And the actual quantity, again, looking at the actuals here, the bottom half of the given information, it's 2.65 million. So we can go ahead and plug all the information into our equation, make the multiplication, and we see that our material price variance is 13,250. And favorable or unfavorable, we can think back to our comparisons. And in this case, the actual price of 0.045 is less than the standard price. So we know that this is a favorable variance. The second piece of the problem here, we're asked to compute the materials usage variance. So over to our solutions, the equation here, we're looking for the actual quantity minus the standard quantity times the standard price. So we can look back to the given information. We can either grab again this actual quantity, or we know that we use that in the problem above, so we can plug that in, 2.65 million. The standard quantity, you'll notice that that number, 2.56 million, does not appear in the problem here. So we actually have to make an additional calculation here. We know that the standard quantity is the unit quantity standard times the actual output. So if we look back over to our standards, top half of the given information, the standard here is 128 ounces. We also know the actual output is 20,000 gallons, or 20,000 units if you want to think of it that way. So we just plug in those two numbers, 128 times the 20,000, and we arrive at the 2.56 million that we're going to plug into this equation over here on the left. Now we do have all the information that we need to solve this equation. The standard price could either look back to the information or else realize that we did, again, use that in the first problem above. So once we have everything plugged in, we can make the calculation, and we see that the materials usage variance is $4,500, and in this case the actual quantity is greater than the standard quantity, and that is a unfavorable variance in this particular instance. So moving on to exercise 10-32. This particular exercise, we're going to be taking a look at labor variances. We can first take a look at the information given in the problem. We're told that during the year 660,000 wheels were produced. We're told some actual information about labor. And we're told about the labor standards. First up, we are asked to compute the labor rate variance. And this is going to look pretty similar to the equations when we're talking about materials. We're just switching gears and looking at labor instead. So the labor rate variance, we're going to use the actual rate minus the standard rate, and then multiply by actual hours. So we can take a look back to the problem. The actual rate is given as $9.50 per hour. So you see that plugged in there. The standard rate we see is $10 per hour. And the actual hours, also given, 360,000. So we can plug these three items into our equation, make the subtraction here and also multiplication, and we see that the labor rate variance is 180,000, favorable. Again, using the definitions, the comparison of favorable or unfavorable. This is when the actual price or actual rate, so here the $9.50, is less than the standard rate. $9.50 is, of course, less than $10. Next up, the second part of this problem here, we need to compute the labor efficiency variance. So grabbing the equation from the chapter, we're going to need the actual hours minus the standard hours times the standard rate. Standard rate, of course, we already have from the first part of the problem. The actual hours, also from the first part of the problem. We will need to make a calculation for the standard hours here. So if we look at the unit hour for the standard here, it's 0.5 hours. So we can plug that in and multiply by the actual output of 660,000. Again, just grabbing that right from the problem. And see that multiplying that out gives us 330,000. Now we have all three pieces to solve the equation. So plugging everything in, we can make that calculation, and we see that the labor efficiency variance is 300,000. And this is an unfavorable variance. Again, thinking back to the comparisons, for unfavorable, if the actual is greater than the standard, in this case 360 is greater than 330. So that is it. That takes us through exercise 1032. Exercise 1033 takes a look at both material and labor variances. This is another really good example if you need some extra practice on these problems. So if you are feeling like you're not quite comfortable with these yet, go ahead and work through 10-33, and we can talk about this in class next time that we meet.